It's me again.
How's everyone doing?
Hello. We should discuss, do we have a person who's going to share their audio and video to ask the question?
Probably wait till somebody comes up on stage or read the questions like we plan.
That jumped up quick.
At least give them a few minutes to get inside the room, I'd say.
So we jumped up really quick. So we went from like 3 people to 25 people. So right now we have 30 people on the platform, 26 here. So who wants to ask the first question?
Come on up. What button do they have to click again, Philip, to come on stage?
The share audio and video button.
Okay. If anyone is interested in asking a question, please click the share audio and video button.
The chat.
All right, I got some questions for you then, Philip.
All right.
Question that I had a student ask me the other day is, how do I handle students asking each other about their health information? I ain't trying to trick you. Take your time.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
So one of the things that we definitely need to keep in mind is that people's health is their own business, and they are under no obligation to share their health diagnosis with you. One of the things that the institution has done is made it mandatory that we all submit or we attest to our health before we come on campus. So going back to one of the points that Meredith made before, we are empowered to ask students to display their green badge through the app so that they can prove that they are able to be on campus. But we should not get in the habit of asking people when they got tested, if they got tested, telling people they need to get tested. We can make recommendations about services that are available, but it is not on us to make those calls.
Got another one for you if no one wants to come up.
And again, just to reiterate, wanting to create a space for those of you that are here, whether you are still remote or whether you are actually working hours anywhere in Norris, just wanted to make sure that we're clarifying any confusion that may be out there.
All right. Ask you another question, student from production. Do we get paid sick leave if we do get sick from COVID in this period?
So if you have accumulated sick time, then you will be paid for sick time you take off. What that does not mean is that if you are taking time off to get tested, if you simply just don't want to work a shift, we are trying to be as understanding as possible about some of the discomfort around working, but we can't just pay people for hours not worked based on that discomfort. There has to actually be proof that you're able to submit according to whatever HR guidelines you signed off on at the time of employment. So if you have accumulated sick time, which you can clarify, or you can check that with your direct supervisor, yes, you will be paid if you are unable to work a shift because of illness, but it isn't just paid time off based on discomfort. And that is for pro staff as well. If we have not accumulated sick time, we don't get to just tell our direct supervisors, hey, I'm not coming in because I don't feel good or I don't want to. If we don't feel good, then yes. But if I don't want to, then we can't just say we don't want to come to work. So, go ahead. Is there a specific script or protocol we should follow if we see people without their mask, wearing their mask incorrectly at Norris? Meredith, I want you to take that one if you don't mind.
Definitely. So there is a protocol. There's a flow chart that I had put together at the beginning of the year that your area supervisor has likely seen and can distribute to you as needed. But essentially, yes, it's kind of whatever language you're comfortable with and how you're comfortable approaching someone or a group of people if you see violations within Norris. But essentially the first time, just a reminder for that individual or that person, just, hey, just a reminder, you need to pull up your mask while you're in Norris. If you're not actively eating or drinking, or this table only seats 2 people, can you all please spread out? Just a nice, polite reminder. If you have to ask someone a second time or you see someone again, you can be a little more stern with that person to say, I have already reminded you once, want to make sure that it's clear we're following the guidelines for the entire campus and that you need to follow those protocols as well. You can ask for a symptom tracker to say, like, can you just show me your symptom tracker? It'll have their name on it as well, so you can kind of make note of that if you see that, and you can let the individual know as well. If I need to come up and ask you again, there is a protocol for submitting conduct reports, which we haven't really gotten to that point of anyone being so egregious or dismissive of our policies to go as far as needing to submit that, but that is something available to you all as well, which we would say if you have to come up to someone a third time, or if this is someone you recognize who's always there on your shift, that we want to make sure that we report that through the right channels and escalate the issue. If at any point someone is giving you any grief, is pushing back against you, you don't have to be the person to say, like, I will stand here until you leave if you don't follow the protocol. You can always tap in a pro staff member. You can tap in a colleague just to say, or even to say, hey, I saw somebody over by the fireplace not wearing their mask. When you going around, can you check and see they've already gotten a reminder? So communicate with each other. Be kind. Most of the time people are good about complying or just forgot, but we're just doing the best that we can. So make sure that you're documenting any issues that you see as well, so that we can hopefully keep better track of what we're seeing within the building, who those repeat offenders might be, and how we can make sure that people know that we're taking the policies seriously. And so hopefully things get better rather than more lax over time. And so I hope that helps.
Thank you so much for that extensive response, Meredith. Hitting like every point, like, let me track this down so I can make sure I ask. But like, as soon as I would jot it down, you would hit that point. So thank you so much for that. The next question is a great question about hybrid capabilities. I'm gonna see if Chris can hop back on and maybe give us a little bit more insight, or if Nate, you're in the chat, can you hop on? Chris is there, so there we go.
Yeah, I can talk about this. Thanks for the question, Libby. So we are doing a staged approach. So we intend to eventually do all our spaces, but the first spaces that are getting permanent upgrades will be Lewis, McCormick, Northwestern, and Wildcat. That being said, we also did purchase some portable camera equipment and streaming equipment. So we have equipment that we intend and expect to use in Con specifically. We don't know when Great Room and Performance Hall will reopen, but we know that Con will probably be one of our earlier venues, given the capacity and the airflow and stuff like that, earlier venues that gets used. And so it's definitely an upgrade from the camera equipment that we have there in the space currently. So Con, our hope is that at some point down the line, we know there's a lot of things that need to happen in Con. And so we're hoping that the AV portion of that will get rolled into a larger project at some point in the future. So that's why we're not targeting it individually right now, but we can still address it. And there are some other projects going on in Con right now that are kind of facilities related. So Con's not being neglected. We're trying to make good use of the time when we're closed. So there is a big utility project going on right outside the doors that they're putting in a new utility vault for the building. And also we're addressing some safety things that they're going to be doing in the box booms and up and around and stuff. So kind of seeing some attention too, just not on the AV end right now.
Thank you so much, Chris. So if there are any more questions, again, feel free to hop on or to put them in the chat. Back in December, we sent out a survey to all of you, just kind of asking what were some of the things that you wanted us to cover. So as you saw in the expo, we're looking at covering some of the career advancement pieces. We're also looking to cover some of the social justice pieces. And again, those are kind of at your own time so that those that aren't able to make the actual meeting today can kind of go back in and look at those. One of the other things that did come up was talking through navigating some of the nuances between being a student employee and just simply being a student. So if there's any questions about that you all wanted us to maybe help process through, we're here to help as much as we can. All of us at some point had to navigate that dynamic. None of us had to navigate it during a global pandemic. So we, again, will do the best we can to give you all transparent and honest answers.
It's usually never this quiet.
Actually, it has been this quiet in Norris for a few months. Well, I will offer, for me, I started in the student union. I started working in the student union the second semester of my freshman year at the information desk. And I think the worst that we really had to deal with at one point, there was like an inland hurricane, like that, whatever that thing was that happened a few months back in the middle of the summer. We had one of those in Southern Illinois, so there was like no power, no water for a few days. And we just kind of had to navigate, a lot of people using the student union because we did have access to, to certain utilities. We just saw more traffic than normal. We saw a lot more people just kind of hanging out there and people that weren't necessarily students using the space as a refuge because they didn't have lights on at home. And so it was, important for us to remember. And one of the ways that we try to process through a lot of what was going on was really look at use empathy, use grace, but also lean into our actual policies so that we were able to be a little bit more consistent with how we handled situations where we would have people that would just kind of be hanging out or taking their shoes off when they weren't supposed to, or bringing their pets in. We would just remind them and use signage to say like, hey, you can't have, your pet here. If it's not a service animal, you can't have it in the facility. So that was one of the things that we did have to deal with. Again, I know it is no comparison to what we're dealing with right now, but just wanted to give a little bit of some of the things that I've had to deal with in my time working in the union. But again, opening it up to you all. If you want to share, if you want to put this in the chat, please do so.
I had a quick question for Meredith and the operations team. Something that the production students have brought up to me a few times. And if you could maybe give some tips and tricks to the group with policy enforcements, here's Jeremy. I'm speaking for a minute, my bad.
Hey, it's Jeremy.
Hey, everyone. I am bouncing between things, but I just was able to hop in for a few minutes to just say hello and thank you all for everything you all are doing. And I think Coretta was answering some of the questions earlier, but I have a few minutes that I can take a couple questions now too, if anybody has any questions. So Michael, if you have a question for me rather than Meredith, I can get her off the hot seat.
Good. So a few questions that production students have been asking. If you had any tips and tricks for what we should do when students are using glasses to their face, or like they'll put food right to their mouth as soon as they see students coming up to ask them to put their mask back on.
Yeah. So what I tend to do, and you'll see when I'm in the building, I try to go and do some rounds in between. And if you're hearing drumming, I'm sorry, my 11-year-old, it's his drum lessons right now, working from home. But what I try to do when I go on rounds is I first start from a place of grace. So I'm like, okay, maybe they just forgot. And so I'll just go up and I'll just point, hey, put the mask on. And in the case they're like, well, I'm trying to drink. And I'm like, when you're not actively drinking, you need to actively be wearing your mask. And so there's a great video that Global Marketing did for the dining centers, and some of that's really relevant for our Norris spaces as well. And one of the things that they said in that video, which still sticks with me, and I love it, when it's basically like fork down, mask up. So when you take a bite, but then when you're done actively taking that bite, you should be putting your mask up. And so I'll just go and casually try to have that conversation with people. What I've found so far is, for the most part, people tend to be really compliant. It's when you walk away and then you go back and some of them, and I've had one situation where I had an interaction with a student where he was the only student not wearing a mask sitting at the table of there 3 of them all sitting together. And I just said, I had went by once, addressed it, he put it on. When I left, I went back, he had it off again. And I said, you are being rude and putting your friends here at risk. Not just violating our policy, you're putting them at risk. They're wearing masks. This is disrespectful. Put the mask on. And when I called him out to that level, it was a different kind of conversation. And he at that point, I did several other rounds, and he was wearing the mask the whole time. So I like to say that for the most part, people are just they're doing it from a good spot. And they took a drink and forgot to put it right back up. And in those cases where they're not, it's calling them out on that. So, as I would want to be called out if it was me. So.
And a good lingering stare at somebody. If you make eye contact with them while they're taking that sip,
Yeah.
I can work a lot longer than somebody can sip for. And so I've seen a few people pull their masks up from that kind of situation, or the willingness to, and I'm always happy to be this person, of the walking up to someone and say, hi, I saw you pull that up because you saw me coming, but just so you're aware, you do need to do that at all times, not just when someone is reminding you, which can be a little bit more confrontational. So I'm more than happy to always be that person if you ever have that kind of scenario.
Me too. And it is amazing, Meredith, how loud your eyes can speak. Right? So yeah. You may be wearing a face mask, but it will be amazing how loud your eyes can speak.
That has the right exact point in the chat, that work from your confidence level and your comfort level. Don't go outside of your own comfort zone. You're already coming to work in a pandemic, so not trying to have anybody get more pushed out of their comfort zone at all.
And I think, Meredith, you made a great point when you were talking about a little bit earlier. If you're not comfortable, don't be afraid to escalate. Pro staff is absolutely here to help. There are at least 5 to 10 of us in the building at any given day. So you can either grab this pro staff person nearest to you, you can reach out to your immediate supervisor. We are on pretty consistent schedules, so we all pretty much know who's going to be working. Most of us are here either Monday, Tuesdays, or Thursday, Fridays, and then we alternate on Wednesdays. There are also people that are here 5 days a week. So lean on your nearest pro staff member if you do need that support. And we will gladly, be a shield to make sure that we're all respecting policy. Any other questions? Michael, do you have any other questions from your team that you would like to share in the chat?
Not at this moment, I don't think so. Since we still have Jeremy up here, if you have a moment, can you touch on some of the food concepts that are back?
Yeah, thanks, Michael. Happy to. So at this point right now, we have open in Norris the Mod Pizza, which is obviously for anybody that's been in Norris is it's pretty evident to see that that's probably the most popular concept at this point right now, and just in terms of sheer numbers, especially going into the early evening with students. They did increase meal equivalencies for this year with COVID, and so I don't know exactly. I want to say it went from either 2 a week to 5 a week, or it was 3 a week to 5 a week. But I think students right now have 5 meal equivalencies that they can use with their meal plan, and Mod is one of those locations. They can also use a meal equivalency at Patty Squared, which is open now as well, not late into the evenings. Right now, we only have Mod and Starbucks open into the evenings, but Patty Squared is open for lunch and early dinner. And then we brought in this year Vietnam Nam, a great local, an alum as well, who has developed that concept, and they've really started to get busier every day as we've been going forward. And then in the market, we have a meal equivalency exchange in the market area as well, where they can get a sandwich, chips, and a drink. So there's those options, and then of course Starbucks. So
It's everyone's favorite.
Starbucks is always everyone's favorite. So
Paul, a lot of Mod pizzas in there.
A lot of Mod pizzas, yeah. So, I think it's been a great step. It's allowing us to get a lot of our campus associates back, which was important for us, and it's great to have them back in the building. It's been able to meet the needs of students who really are wanting something different from just the dining center sometimes. And for our off-campus students who are coming here and spending a lot of time in Norris studying and just needing that space. So that's where we're at. And like I said, overall, it's been going really well. So great question, Michael. Thank you. And I don't anticipate any changes for the spring. I think we'll stay at this level, and we'll likely not reopen the rest of the concepts till next fall. But we'll continue to watch and see.
Anyone else have any questions for Jeremy while he's here?
Yeah, got time for one last one.
I'll throw you one if no one has one, but let someone get up here and get one.
All right, Michael, you're up then.
All right. Can you explain to all of us the importance of Norris and it being open during this isolation period?
That's a good question, Michael. Yeah, we really worked hard to try to get Norris open in some form or fashion for throughout the entire COVID. This entire since COVID began, the whole shutdown of the campus and the community. When we went into the stay-at-home order, Norris shut down at that point from April till June, the first week in June. And when we were finally able to reopen, we did reopen at that point. And although we were did not have a whole lot of food options open, we just wanted to be a space where students could go and be in social distance community together. It was I think students and those who were staying on campus for the spring quarter, those who were here over the summer and fall, that sense of community that they find in Norris is one of those only spaces on campus. And so it was really important for us to be able to open in some form or fashion and to provide that opportunity to be to create some sort of in-person experience as different as it is for this year. So
Yeah, we appreciate
Yeah.
your time today.
all right. And thank you all. I really appreciate all of you. And I am going to head to another meeting, and but appreciate all of you and talk to you later.
Thanks, Jeremy.
All right. Do we want to go over those poll results real quick, or you want to wait on those?
Yeah, I think we're at a good place to go over the polls and then start wrapping.
Sounds good.
So if you didn't go to the event, click on the event tab in the polls and make your votes there. This is your last few seconds. Although we'll see if things change over the weekend. I think as a lot more people are planning on coming in over the weekend to fill these out. So these will still be open. You know, tell your friends. You can get your department represented here. But we have the most seniors here. Congrats, you're almost done. Scrolling through the favorite floor in Norris, barely beating some weird PSV venue. Shout out to all our PSV students. We have the first floor of Norris. Everybody's, or not everybody, 5 votes. That's not that many. So let's see if that changes. The people love the first floor. What department are you representing? We have the most people from event planning and production. So shout out, Michael, to your squad.
It's tied with PSV right now, but event management is definitely, it's 5 and 5.
Oh, I see. You're right. I was not
But
a
it's still event
math.
management. So I mean, the rest of you need to show up.
All right. Most people are joining us from their dorm or apartment. I'm surprised there's not more people joining us straight from their beds, but proud of you all for getting up and getting out of bed today. Favorite Norris food option. This one was Mod Pizza is the current winner. No fans of the deli. No super fans of the deli, so it's a bummer. But and then also a couple of votes for Duncan there, RIP this year. But someday we'll bring it back and restore it to its former glory. But yeah, that about does it for all of our polls. Philip, you want to take us home?
Yeah, so again, wanted to thank everyone for showing up today, for being a part of the conversation. For those of you that were able to ask some questions, hopefully we were able to give you some good answers and some good information. What's going to happen now is we're going to open it up. The expo is still available. Please go through the expo. We have our racial equity groups, which each one is defined differently, but those were created as a way for us to start looking at Norris in ways that we reflect the diversity within our space and our campus and our world. So we are looking to do that work. There's the charters are there, committee members are there, and updates to what's going on with each of those groups. There's also information about ongoing conversations that are a little bit more targeted that you all will be welcome to join. The last 2 are actual trainings for you to complete. The first one is an active bystander video with some reflective and reflection questions. And then there is, I'm sorry, Anna-Laura, did you want to explain that a little bit more? I guess it'd be better.
It's a video created by MSA and in conjunction with Dr. Saeed Hill. It's basically just giving you some examples and some tools in case you ever have to intervene on different type of situations, which just comes super in handy now that we're in the COVID area with things like mask wearing and things like that. So, but if you have any questions, feel free to contact us, any of us on this committee, your supervisor, or Q from MSA. She's more than happy to answer any questions or talk through anything you see in that video.
Thank you. And the next assignment is targeted at career readiness. Meredith, did you want to talk through that a little bit?
So it's a choose your own adventure with your homework. Choose one of there's 5 options in there with a lot of links to the different NCA resources. But if you're a person who has not really thought about putting your resume together, or you already have your job secured for after graduation, there's kind of a big range of opportunities in there. Some of the things might be things you're thinking about doing anyway, like meeting with NCA or submitting an application for like a internship scholarship program. So there's a list of some homework assignments there and all the resources to connect you with NCA. And you just need to confirm with your supervisor which one you've chosen, which one you've done, and whether that's sending a screenshot as evidence or having a discussion with them about some like transferable skills you've picked up at Norris. Choose your own adventure, and the due date for that is just the end of the quarter. So you've got plenty of time, but want to make sure that you spend some time thinking about your career progress or what you want to do next, whether that's this summer or after you graduate.
All right. So again, just make sure you're looking through those expos. There's some slides, some videos, lots of great information. Our first two sessions, once we end the chat here, are going to be re-uploaded into the expo as well for those that either joined us late, had to leave early, or weren't able to attend at all. And it'll be open until Sunday. So with that, enjoy the rest of your day. Be safe if you have to go outside. I think it's still snowing, and it'll be snowing and or raining for the remainder of the day. Have a great night.